My parents sued me for refusing to sell my apartment to fund my sister's divorce. So I taught them a lesson they'll regret. You want me to sell my apartment? I stared at my mother in disbelief. The apartment I'd spent 5 grueling years saving for, working double shifts at the accounting firm and eating nothing but peanut butter sandwiches. Savannah needs a top-tier lawyer. Mom's voice was ice-cold steel. The Blackwell family has serious money. She'll lose everything without proper legal representation. She cheated on him with his business partner. Dad slammed his coffee mug on our old dining table, the one from my childhood in suburban Cleveland. Your sister made a mistake, James. People make mistakes. A mistake? She had an 8-month affair with Trevor, and now Cameron Blackwell wants to destroy her financially. Mom's eyes blazed with that familiar fire I'd seen throughout my childhood whenever anyone dared question her precious daughter. Is that what you want? Your sister completely destroyed? 3 months earlier, I'd finally closed on my first place, a modest 1-bedroom condo in downtown Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. After growing up watching my parents' constant financial chaos, their credit card debts and failed business ventures, owning something outright felt like pure freedom. My younger sister, Savannah, had gotten married around the same time to Cameron Blackwell, heir to a manufacturing fortune that dated back 4 generations. Their wedding at the Ritz-Carlton was the social event of the season in our small Ohio town. Mom basked in the attention, finally rubbing shoulders with the country club elite she'd always desperately wanted to join. Can you believe it? She gushed at the reception, champagne flute in hand. My daughter, a Blackwell. I'd forced a smile even though something felt off about the whole thing. Savannah had changed since meeting Cameron. Designer handbags, weekly salon appointments, a new nose job she claimed was for deviated septum issues. But that was Savannah. Even as kids, she'd been the golden child. Mom had entered her in beauty pageants at 5, dance competitions at 7, anything that put her center stage with a tiara on her head. I was the awkward older brother who preferred reading Stephen King novels to high school parties, the one Mom introduced as our little number cruncher. Like being good with finances was something embarrassing. Everything came crashing down last March. I was preparing quarterly tax reports when Savannah called, absolutely hysterical. James, I need to see you right now. What's wrong? Just, can you meet me at that Starbucks on High Street? When I arrived, Savannah looked terrible. Her usual perfect makeup couldn't hide the puffy, red-rimmed eyes behind her designer sunglasses. Cameron's filing for divorce, she said without any preamble. What? Why? She twisted her massive wedding ring, a diamond that cost more than my Honda Civic. He says I betrayed our marriage vows. Did you? It's complicated. Savannah. Fine. I had a relationship with Trevor, his business partner, but it's completely over now. The coffee shop suddenly felt suffocating. My sister had actually cheated on her millionaire husband with his closest friend and business associate. The family emergency meeting was scheduled for Sunday afternoon. I walked into my parents' ranch house in Westerville to find not just them and Savannah, but also my Aunt Dorothy and her husband Frank, Dad's wealthy brother who'd always served as the family's financial safety net when things got desperate. Good you're here, Dad said grimly. We need to strategize. About what exactly? Protecting Savannah's future, Mom declared. The Blackwell family has 3 law firms on permanent retainer. We need comparable legal representation. How much are we talking? I cut straight to the point. The retainer fee is $85,000, Aunt Dorothy announced. Morrison and Associates, they're the absolute best divorce attorneys in Ohio. $85,000 for a divorce lawyer? It's actually reasonable, Uncle Frank added, considering what's potentially at stake here. What exactly is at stake? Savannah finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Cameron wants to enforce our prenup completely. I'll walk away with absolutely nothing. You signed a prenuptial agreement. I didn't think I'd ever actually need it to protect me. Then what did you think it was for? James, please, Mom interrupted sharply. This isn't helping anyone. We need practical solutions. Dad cleared his throat. I already spoke with our bank. We can pull $25,000 from our home equity line. I can contribute $20,000, Dorothy offered reluctantly. That still leaves us $40,000 short, Mom said, then looked directly at me with laser focus. Your condo is worth about $250,000 now, right? The entire room went dead silent. Everyone stared at me expectantly. No, I said simply. You haven't even heard our complete plan. Mom continued smoothly. You sell the condo, pay for Savannah's legal fees, and use the remaining money as a down payment on something bigger and better. Property values are rising steadily. It's a smart investment opportunity. My condo isn't for sale. James, be reasonable here, Dad said. Family helps family in times of crisis. Where was family help when I was working 60-hour weeks to save my down payment? When I was eating ramen noodles for 2 straight years to afford closing costs? We offered to help you, Mom said defensively. You offered to co-sign if I bought in Savannah's neighborhood. Triple the price just for appearances. Image matters in this world. She sniffed. My financial security matters more. So you'll just let your sister be completely destroyed? Aunt Dorothy asked accusingly. The Blackwell family will bury her in legal proceedings. Savannah destroyed her own marriage when she chose to have an 8-month affair. It was a mistake, Savannah wailed. Haven't you ever made a serious mistake? Not one that violated legal contracts and devastated innocent people. The meeting completely fell apart from there. For 3 weeks, the pressure was absolutely relentless. Daily phone calls from Mom, desperate text messages from Savannah, even emails from extended family members I hadn't heard from in years, all explaining why I should do the right thing and sacrifice my financial stability for my sister's legal problems. Then the certified letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. My parents were actually suing me. The legal complaint alleged unjust enrichment and breach of implied family contract. Their attorney argued that my parents had provided me with 18 years of financial support, creating a legal obligation to reciprocate during their time of desperate need. This is absolutely insane, my best friend Kyle said, reading through the legal documents. Can they actually do this legally? Apparently they think so. What's your plan? Fight it with everything I have. I hired Rebecca Martinez, a family law attorney recommended by my boss at the accounting firm. She specialized in unusual family financial disputes and had apparently seen every crazy situation imaginable. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, she said during our initial consultation. Your parents want to legally force you to sell your condominium to pay for your sister's divorce attorney because she cheated on her wealthy husband. That's the basic situation, and they're claiming you owe them financially for the basic act of raising you. They actually itemized everything: diapers, food, my bicycle when I was 12 years old. She actually burst out laughing. I've seen some frivolous lawsuits in my career, but this might actually take the cake. Don't worry, we'll handle this completely. The discovery phase was incredibly invasive and humiliating. They demanded all my financial records, proof of exactly how I'd paid for the condominium, evidence of any family support I'd ever received. I spent countless hours gathering documents, bank statements, pay stubs showing how I'd saved every single penny myself. Meanwhile, Savannah's divorce proceeded with a public defender equivalent. Cameron's legal team absolutely crushed her. The prenuptial agreement held up perfectly. She got her personal belongings and absolutely nothing else. She's moving back in with your parents, Kyle told me. He'd heard through mutual friends. Your parents are beside themselves with anger. They should have thought about that before suing me. The lawsuit became major gossip fodder in our social circle. My parents tried desperately to control the narrative, telling everyone I'd abandoned basic family values for selfish financial gain. Some people actually believed their version. I lost several cousins I'd grown up with, longtime family friends who'd known me since childhood. But others saw through their manipulation completely. My grandmother, Mom's mother, called me one evening from her retirement community in Florida. James, sweetheart, I heard about this absolute nonsense. Hi, Grandma. Your mother always enabled that spoiled girl. Now she wants you to pay the price for her mistakes. That seems to be the plan. Well, I want you to know I support you completely and I'm changing my will immediately. Your parents won't see one penny of my estate after this ridiculous stunt. Despite everything, that phone call meant the world to me. The court date arrived in late September. My parents showed up with their complete legal team in what looked like a carefully planned PR strategy. They'd even coordinated their outfits, Mom in conservative navy blue, Dad in his best suit, Savannah in demure pastels that screamed innocent victim. Rebecca had prepared meticulously for this moment. She presented overwhelming evidence of my complete financial independence. My student loans that I was still paying off, my total lack of financial support from family since turning 18. She even showed how I'd actually lent money to my parents twice over the years, small amounts they'd never bothered repaying. Your Honor, she argued passionately, the plaintiffs are attempting to establish a dangerous legal precedent that parents can retroactively bill their adult children for the basic care required by law. That successful children become automatic ATMs for family members' poor life choices. This isn't about genuine family obligation. This is about pure financial exploitation. Their attorney painted me as an ungrateful son who'd benefited tremendously from family sacrifice and now completely refused to reciprocate when needed most. He presented photo albums, old report cards, anything to demonstrate that my parents had been involved. Caring providers throughout my childhood. And now, he concluded dramatically, when they need him most desperately, he turns his back completely, choosing property over people, greed over basic gratitude. The most dramatic moment came when Savannah took the witness stand. She cried on cue, describing how Cameron had supposedly trapped her in a loveless, emotionally empty marriage. How Trevor had been her only source of light and happiness. How my refusal to help had cost her everything she'd ever worked for. Do you accept any responsibility for the affair? Rebecca asked during cross-examination. I fell in love with someone who actually cared about me. Is that a crime? Do you take responsibility for violating your marriage vows? Cameron violated them first emotionally. How exactly? He worked late constantly. He played golf every weekend. He didn't appreciate me as a person. Did he abuse you physically? Not physically, no. Did he cheat on you? Not that I know of. Did he neglect your financial needs? No. But so your husband worked hard and played recreational golf, and for this you had an 8-month affair with his business partner? Savannah's tears turned to pure anger. You don't understand. None of you understand what I gave up for that marriage. What exactly did you give up? My potential. I could have been anything. What did you want to be? I don't know exactly, but more than just a trophy wife. Did Cameron force you to stop working or pursuing education? No. Did you ever express interest in any career during your marriage? That's not the point, but it was exactly the point. Savannah had chosen to be financially dependent, then blamed everyone else when her choices backfired spectacularly. The judge took 1 full week to reach his decision. When the ruling finally came, it was completely decisive and thorough. This court finds absolutely no legal basis for the plaintiff's claims, the judge began firmly. Parents cannot sue their adult children for the costs of raising them. To allow such precedent would open floodgates of litigation that would destroy the very fabric of family relationships in our society, he continued. Furthermore, this court is deeply troubled by the plaintiff's attempt to use legal mechanisms to compel what should be voluntary family support. The defendant has no obligation whatsoever to fund his sister's divorce proceedings, particularly when said proceedings stem directly from her own admitted adultery. The case is dismissed with prejudice. The plaintiffs will bear all court costs and the defendant's attorney fees. My parents were absolutely furious. Outside the courthouse, away from the judge's watchful eyes, they completely unleashed their rage. You've destroyed this entire family, Mom hissed venomously. I hope that stupid apartment is worth losing everyone who actually loves you. The only thing I lost was people who saw me as nothing but a wallet, I replied calmly. Don't come crawling back when you desperately need us, Dad added bitterly. I've never been able to count on you anyway. They left with Savannah, who hadn't even bothered looking at me throughout the entire confrontation. I stood there feeling hollow but genuinely free for the first time in months. The aftermath was swift and brutal for them. Without the Blackwell money or social connections, Savannah struggled desperately. She'd never developed any practical skills, always counting entirely on her looks and charm to get by. She got a job at Nordstrom, but quit within 3 weeks, claiming retail work was beneath her dignity. She's getting desperate, Kyle told me several months later. I heard she's dating some older married guy now. Of course she is. Your parents are struggling financially too. Your grandmother apparently followed through on that will change. Other family members are distancing themselves completely. I'd heard similar reports from various sources. Their lawsuit had backfired spectacularly. Instead of rallying family support around their cause, it had exposed their toxic manipulation tactics to everyone who mattered. The real shock came 6 months after the court victory. I received a phone call from Aunt Dorothy. "James, we need to discuss your parents' situation. I'm not interested in discussing anything with them. They're in serious trouble, real financial trouble. Despite everything they put me through, I agreed to meet her at a neutral location." She looked older, more stressed than I'd ever seen her. "They took out high-interest loans," she explained desperately, "to pay for Savannah's attorney, their own attorney, all the court costs, predatory lenders with terrible terms. That was their choice to make. James, they're going to lose their house. Their choice, their consequences. James, I'm not asking you to forgive them. Just maybe consider helping somehow. Did you help when they were attacking me legally?" She had the grace to look genuinely ashamed. "No, I sided with them completely. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. Frank and I already gave them $35,000. We simply can't do any more. Then they'll have to figure it out themselves." She left disappointed but not particularly surprised by my response. The foreclosure notice arrived exactly 4 months later. Mom called me for the first time since the lawsuit ended. "James." Her voice was small and completely defeated. "What do you want, Mom?" "We're losing the house. I heard through the grapevine." "Can you possibly—" "No." "You haven't even heard what I was going to ask." "Doesn't matter, the answer is no. We'll be homeless, James. You'll be renters. There's a significant difference. How can you be so cold and heartless? You sued me, Mom. You tried to legally force me to sell my home to pay for Savannah's mistakes. You made your choice very clearly. That was for Savannah's future. And how did that work out exactly?" Long silence, then very quietly. "She's pregnant." "Who's the father?" "The married man she's been seeing. He won't leave his wife for her." Shocking development. "James, please, if not for us, then for your future niece or nephew. The baby Savannah chose to have with a married man. That baby isn't my responsibility either. You're completely heartless. I'm practical. You taught me that harsh lesson when you showed me I could only count on myself." She hung up without another word. They lost the house 2 months later, moving into a cramped apartment in the worst part of town. Dad's pride took a devastating hit he never recovered from. He started drinking heavily, lost his job at the insurance company, and spiraled downward fast. Savannah had the baby, a girl she named Destiny because of course she did. The married boyfriend disappeared immediately after the birth. She moved back in with our parents, making their tiny apartment even more crowded and chaotic. "It's pure karma," Grandma told me during one of our regular lunch dates. "Absolute karma. They thought they could manipulate and control everyone with guilt trips and frivolous lawsuits. Now look at their situation." "I don't take any pleasure in their suffering," I said honestly. "No, but you don't have to rescue them from the consequences of their choices either." She was absolutely right about that. Every few months I'd hear updates through mutual acquaintances. Dad's health declining rapidly. Mom working retail at 74 years old. Savannah cycling through men who promised to save her but never followed through. The baby being raised in complete chaos and instability. Kyle thought I should feel guilty about their situation. "That's still your family, man, your niece. My family sued me. They made that choice deliberately. But the baby didn't choose her parents. She's not responsible for any of this. The baby has parents. That's not my responsibility to fix. Looking back 3 years later, I have absolutely no regrets about my decisions. My condominium has appreciated significantly in value, and I've built a solid foundation for my future. I was promoted to senior accountant and started my own small tax preparation business on the side. The family drama occasionally surfaces in my social circles, but most people who know the full story support my position. I've built stronger relationships with friends who value integrity over manipulation, and I've learned to set healthy boundaries with toxic people, even family members. My grandmother passed away last year, leaving me a substantial inheritance that my parents knew nothing about. She kept her promise about changing her will, and her final letter to me was both heartbreaking and validating. You were the only one who stood up to their bullying. I'm proud of you for staying strong. I used part of the inheritance to buy a small rental property. Another step toward long-term financial security that my parents' chaos taught me to value above all else. Occasionally, I wonder about my niece, Destiny, who's now 3 years old. I've seen pictures through social media. She's a beautiful little girl who deserves better than the unstable situation she was born into. But I've learned that feeling sympathy doesn't mean I'm obligated to rescue people from their own choices. Derek still thinks I'm too harsh sometimes. Don't you think there's ever a point where protecting your financial future might go too far? Where completely cutting off family during genuine hardship becomes wrong, even when they cause their own problems? It's a fair question that I've wrestled with, honestly. But every time I consider softening my position, I remember that court date. I remember my parents coordinating their outfits to manipulate a judge. I remember them trying to legally steal my home to pay for Savannah's affair consequences. Some boundaries once crossed can't be uncrossed. Some betrayals are too fundamental to forgive, especially when there's never been any genuine apology or accountability. My apartment, now worth over $300,000, represents more than just financial security. It represents my independence from people who would exploit my success to enable their failures. It represents the hard lesson that sometimes protecting yourself requires saying no to people who claim to love you, but treat you like an ATM. Would I make the same choices again? Absolutely. Because the alternative was letting them destroy my financial future to temporarily postpone the consequences of Savannah's adultery. That wasn't love or loyalty. That was enabling destructive behavior at my own expense. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for people is let them face the full consequences of their choices. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is refuse to be their safety net when they've proven they'd rather manipulate you than respect you. My life is peaceful now, successful, and built on a foundation that no one can take away through guilt trips or lawsuits. That's worth more than any family relationship that was only valued for what I could provide financially. In the end, I didn't lose a family. I escaped one that was determined to drag me down with them. And that apartment they wanted me to sacrifice, it's not just my home anymore. It's my declaration of independence from people who confused love with exploitation. That's a lesson worth every penny I refuse to give them.